Hello. I'm not a real man and I separate the art from the artist. The being known as Cthulhu is a staple of pop culture. Having its entire setting named after it, it is what most people think of when they hear the term incomprehensible cosmic horror. Now such a creature existing would indeed be horrifying, and literally cosmic, as it came from the stars, but I don't think it's that incomprehensible. In fact, seems to make perfect sense for what it is meant to be. Let's take a look at Cthulhu's appearance to see what I mean. The most eye-catching feature of this being is of course the tentacled head on the humanoid body. Like someone placed an octopus where a goblin's head should be. Look a little closer at that head though. You see multiple skinny tentacles, much more like those of a nautilus than those of an octopus. Oh, and I'm not gonna get into the whole arms vs tentacles argument. If it has designated joints, it's an arm. If it can bend any which way all along its length, it's a tentacle. The creator himself could come down and tell me otherwise and I'd still call it dumb. But I'm getting off topic. The nautilus uses its tentacles to search the ocean floor for food. This is also how I assume Cthulhu feeds. Except it's so big that almost everything is small enough to eat. Okay, but what about the humanoid body and the tiny dragon wings? What use are those underwater? Well, for that I would like to draw your attention to these two critters. The batfish, and the Dumbo octopus. Similar to the nautilus, these two are benthic carnivores that go after smaller prey. But if they approach their prey by swimming normally, it will detect the waves they cause in the water and avoid them. So the solution is to sneak up on it. The batfish does so by creeping on its stilt-like fins, like an underwater cat. The Dumbo octopus does so by flapping its little fins just slow enough to not alarm its prey, which I'm guessing is better than blasting a water jet out your nostril thing. And Cthulhu probably does both. Though I am curious what sea monsters it could be sneaking up on. Cthulhu's tiny eyes probably aren't all that useful in the abyss either. But what about telepathy and shape-shifting, and being a literal god from space? Well, we know magic exists in the universe of the Cthulhu mythos. And I never said it wasn't a god from space. I'm just explaining that the form it chose to take while on Earth makes sense. And so does its lifestyle. Down at the bottom of the ocean, food is rare and hard to detect. So animals there have evolved to spend as little energy as possible. Cthulhu sleeping for millennia at a time and only awakening when it absolutely has to, is an adaptation to the harsh environment it decided to settle in. Okay, this turned out a lot shorter than I thought, so here are a few more Lovecraftian creatures that make sense scientifically. Although these are technically mortal alien species instead of magical kaiju, so they only take half points. The Migo are said to have insectoid bodies with heads made of fungal hyphae. That sounds a lot like an insect that was infected by a fungus. Maybe the Migo used to be a species of non-sentient insectoid aliens that were infected. But instead of the fungus disposing them, it grew alongside them, connecting them into a mycelial hive mind that eventually achieved sapience. Alternatively, they could just be fungi that evolved means of locomotion in order to access more food. Decaying matter is a pretty ephemeral resource after all, and the body of a fly is ideal at utilizing it. Also, fungi use chitin for structural support, which is also used in arthropod exoskeletons. So if a fungus evolved to move around, it makes sense for it to look like an arthropod. The elder things are one of my personal favorites. With their radial symmetry and their starfish plant appearance, they are one of the most alien aliens I've ever read about. So you'd be surprised to know that we have creatures on Earth that are very similar to them. To the point where I can imagine them evolving into elder things if conditions are right. Basket stars are echinoderms, similar to starfish and sea urchins. They have the same radial symmetry as those animals, with the same roundish body that's reinforced with calcium, I think. But their limbs are fractal, giving them an appearance similar to roots and branches. Feather stars are also echinoderms that look like plants. But they have more of a fern or flower look. It is unlikely but nonetheless possible, that a similar echinoderm evolved to be taller, semi-terrestrial and intelligent. Although some of their features are probably the result of genetic engineering, which we know they practiced. I also expect the hole flying through the vacuum of space on their membranous wings to be the mythologized interpretation of interstellar fleets by a post-apocalyptic tribal society. Their story was one of decline and regression after all. So that is all for this video. I understand that this is the exact opposite way of interpreting those monsters than what the author intended. But I don't really care about the author. And the fans have been turning the IP into all kinds of different genres, no matter how antithetical they might be. So I doubt they will dislike me from misrepresenting the source material. I do have more ideas for videos than I did when I started the channel, but I also got busy with other things. So I will most likely not upload as often, but I wanna keep doing it. Goodbye for now.